Welcome, everyone, to the Motyv podcast. My name is Shaden Bertnoli, and it's been a minute since I have done my own solo podcast, and I'm going to try and do that today. I'm really excited about it. I'm also feeling there's like an anxiety there. There always is, but it's been a minute since I've spoken just by myself, especially in my own studio. I used to be in the little closet that I built, and where I would just have my microphone and that was it. And it was only audio, so I could kind of hide in there. And now to have the camera in front of me, it's more revealing. It's a really interesting process. But yeah, welcome. If this is your first episode ever, then thank you for joining us. And please listen to any of the others that we have. We're on YouTube at my _ Motyv. So you can see just a few of the episodes we've done there, which I think are around 6 episodes or so. And then on any of your major podcast streaming channels, not Buzzsprout, Apple, Spotify, all of those, you can find us. And what we're about here, we are about liberating the captive. That's our mission. I don't say it enough, and I need to. For crying out loud, it's our stinking mission. That word liberate, it is a powerful word to set free, to set something free that has contained you, held you down, imprisoned you. We all have things that are holding us captive, and we need liberation. We need to liberate ourselves. What I love about that word too, and I know I've said it before, but liberate has this dual meaning. I think in each of us, there's this beautiful soul, and I think we're gonna talk about that today even more. But there's this side of us that just needs to be released. There's this side of us that needs to come out and absolutely start giving to the world, which is what I call Motyv. Motyv is your gift to the world. So I guess I could start saying liberate Motyv in a lot of ways, because there's a purpose inside of you. There's a gift inside of you that needs to be given and liberated. And the question is, are you hiding or are you doing that? I want to start this episode with something I haven't done before. I had a great conversation today with someone, and I brought up the idea of seeing them. I said, I said, whoever like saw you when you were a kid, and they looked at me and they actually said, why does that matter? And I was kind of taken aback. I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, why does that matter if I was seen or not? And I proceeded to teach this person why being seen, if you will, viewed, attuned to, just witnessed is so important. And it's because we are human beings who have experiences, and nothing more that we want is love and connection. And the practice of somebody else mourning with you, of bearing whatever it is you have to bear. I said it this way. I said, well, it's like BAR. You are bearing what other people are bearing, BARING. And that's our mission, right? In all of our lives, we've got to be able to do that. And so I want to start today. I want to see somebody, and the human I've chosen today, and I might just switch this up as we go. Maybe I'll never do it again. I don't know. I just felt it today. I just want to let you know, if you're a man who is going through divorce or has been divorced recently, and you're in the middle of it, and perhaps you're one that you feel there's just so much unfairness, so much that is out of your control. I wanted to say that I see you. And although I've never been in your shoes, I know that you are up at night. I know that you can do everything that you can sometimes to try to isolate and just not have this incessant contention inside of you. I know that you're dealing with literal inner demons that are bringing out every bit of shame that you have. I know you're dealing with serious grief of the loss that divorce is. No matter how easy or hard the divorce was, it's still loss. I know you're dealing with children most of the time who are who are in the middle of a story between parents that often can become a loyalty battle that is so sickening and so hard, and it makes you just want to scream. I know that many of you that are going through this just want to be all by yourself, and that there's times you wish you could just drive and drive and drive and not go back to wherever it is that you have to go back to just escape it all. And I know that the emotional pain you have, if you could swap it out with physical pain, I know that many of you men, that you would. I know that that physical pain has an end most of the time, not always, but I know that I know that you deal with pain that feels endless. And I just want you to know that I see you and that I am genuinely sorry. Even if you caused it, I'm sorry for what you are going through. And my hope for you is that you don't become bitter. My hope for you is that you can get better, not bitter. And that's it. I hope you feel seen. And anybody listening to that, if that situation is so foreign to you, if you haven't been through it, if you haven't really been around anybody who has, take that in. Even listen to it again if you need to. Just, rewind a little bit and listen to it again. Because I believe that liberating people is fueled through empathy. When you help others be seen, you rob them of loneliness. You rob them of being on an island where I am shamefully unknown. And that type of service is a service that trumps picking up garbage for somebody, cleaning out their house. Not that those things are bad in any way or less than. I guess I shouldn't say they're better, but there's just a deepness, there's a depth, I should say, to mourning with someone that mourns. And so I know that sometimes when you haven't, for anyone who hasn't been through this, there's times when these situations come up in your life and that individual is suffering, but you hesitate and you become afraid to minister to them because you think you have to fix it, because you think that, well, what good am I going to do? I just showed you what you can do. There's no fixing in that. There's just being there, bearing those that are bearing something. And so that's my hope too, that you can take some value in that to help to understand someone in your life. All right, moving on. Here's the topic. What are the consequences of not knowing how to turn off your mind? I can hear my wife right now laughing her head off. I can hear Blake. I can hear Steve. I can hear Sadie and Jordan and Candace and Phyllis and all of my amazing team. Anyone who knows me that well, my mom, my sister. I mean, maybe I shouldn't just name everybody. They're laughing right now. Like, wait, what? Shaden's going to ask, he's going to answer this question. He has the audacity to do a podcast on the consequences of not turning off his mind. And I'm going to say, you're darn right I am, because I am the authority on not turning off your mind. And if it's a competition, I'll compete with any of you. God gave me a Corvette engine. It's just the facts. I haven't, but the brake pedal is often buried to where I don't know how to turn it off. And I know I'm not alone. I know there's so many of you listening that are going, oh yeah, this is awesome. I hope you can talk about this. And I told you, I'm just going to talk about the consequences. I don't know what to do about it. I'm just going to tell you these. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I want to get to some things that we can do about it as well. So the consequences of not turning off your mind, right? Wow. Our mind is a tool. Let's just get that straight. And I've done I've done a podcast on this before. So if you've listened to it, don't worry about it, because this was going to be better, I think. So number one, what are the consequences of not turning off your mind? Is the fact that your mind is not you. So let's get into that first. You are not your mind. That's a truth you have to adopt. Okay, you are not your mind. Your heart beats, your lungs breathe, your kidneys filter, your stomach digests, whatever. Your mind, it thinks. But guess what it thinks about? It thinks about the things that it was programmed to think about. And guess what does the programming? The past. The past, your experiences, they do the programming. And how many of those experiences that you've had have been unfiltered, file saved, put in the hard drive of your mind without any kind of narrative to them, without any kind of meaning brought out of them? They're just plain experiences that have joy and have pain and have all the entire universe of situations that we can have. That's in there. But what also is in there is a little boy or a little girl who a long time ago was authentic as you could ever see. You want to know how authentic they are? My little 5-year-old today, when I was getting ready, my wife came in and said, "Hey, where's Lula?" And I said, "I don't know. I thought she was with you." Well, her siblings had already gone to choir practice that morning at school, so she was the only one. She's a kindergartner. Shelly goes out to the garage, and her bike is gone, and her helmet is gone, and her backpack is in our house. She thought she was late for school, and my 5-year-old was halfway there to school. We had no idea. That's how independent that girl is. That's how authentic she is. She didn't filter. She just did what she felt. And I told my wife, I just chuckled. I said, I'm so glad we have a safe neighborhood and that she's so explorative, but holy cow, how authentic is that? How beautiful is that? That she knew she wanted to go to school. So what'd she do? She went to school. Now imagine this. She comes home today and I'm there. "Lula, what did you do this morning?" And I'm mad. "Did you leave the house today? Don't you ever do that again. Don't you know you could have been hit by a car?" Well, file save that, Lula, for the rest of your life. And then let's times that by thousands of experiences where honestly, what a beautiful experience she had. She was autonomous. She did something on her own. How cool. But if I filter that and tell her what she should think about it in a shameful way, that's what she'll remember. And it gets saved. And then one day, little Lula is older. She's bigger, Lula. And she has this idea that she wants to do, and it's just the most beautiful thing in the world. And what does she do? I wonder what my dad would think of that. I wonder what these people would think of that. Nah, I'm not going to do it anymore. And it comes from that experience and many others like it. To where that girl that knew she could just be whatever she wanted to be in a lot of ways, filtered by God's truth, I will say. It got scared. She got scared because she made a decision and it was shamed. It was hurt. And so what we do is we start to filter that. And so that's called the ego. So what little Lula in this situation, she could build this false self. So she could start doing things to please me. She could start doing things to please Shelly. She could stop doing the things that she normally wants to do, and might seek out what I want to do. And then she goes to her friends, and she starts thinking, what is it that they want to do? And I'm just going to do that, even though I would rather go and do this. And this pleasing behavior starts to occur. And again, there's many other ways it can go. But this self, she starts saying yes to things that she wouldn't normally say yes to. So this false self starts to come out. And now you times that by years. And what happens? You forget and have never even remembered the little Lula that got on her bike. And the only thing you think is you is this one that you've created for years to protect the actual you. And from this point in our podcast, we're going to call that the mind. And you've identified with it so powerfully that you have no idea that there's actually a spirit that possesses your body, which has your name, and it is you, and there's nothing else like it, and there is no such thing as myself. So when you say, I hate myself, there's no I and myself is like two different things. There isn't two. There's no myself to hate. I can't hate a myself. There is no such thing as a myself. There's only an I. Let that sink in. There is no myself. There's only a projected myself that has been written in your mind that talks to you every day. And that when you don't distinguish the two, your mind will run everything. And the consequences of the mind being in charge, because there's only two ways it can occur. You are in charge of your mind, or your mind is in charge of you. Most of us don't have the off button. And I want to say, you know what? Good job in life, because you're still killing it in life. Many of you listening to this, you're still making it. But I promise so much of your suffering is actually due to, in large part, this dynamic, if you will. So this mind, when it tells you what to do and you listen, it'll then keep churning out those thoughts. And those thoughts what the brain is built to do is to protect us. Okay, it's to protect us and to prevent pain. So it's to prevent us from dying, protect us. And so what's it going to fixate on is dangerous things. It's going to fixate on things that are going to hurt us. Especially it's going to start fixating on things that could hurt that hidden little Lula. I love her name. That little person in you, that little boy in you who once felt emotion a lot and was slowly socialized to not feel anymore. He's still there. I promise. He didn't die. I see him wake up all the time in the work I do. And when it wakes up, it scares you. And the mind says, "Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't show that love to that person. Don't be affectionate. Don't have compassion. Don't love that person. Don't serve that way. Don't look at that person and smile. Just look away." All these little nudges that real you is having, there's this resistance between it, because the mind that you built for so long to protect yourself, because of experiences that you didn't even choose, by the way, most of the time, is getting in the way. And the consequences of that: no sleep, okay, constant rumination, your mind's going, or too much sleep, right? Drowning it out, addiction, alcohol, you name it, anything can become an addiction in an attempt to numb that out. And so then it works. So then you do become numb. And so what you feel is your head. And many of you, I know many men I talk to, your mind feels like it's buzzing. And trust me, last week I was there. And that's actually what inspired this podcast, is because Blake, in his infinite goodness, well, not quite infinite, but he's a good dude. He made fun of me when we were prepping for our podcast, and we were talking about, I was like, man, my mind's just racing. He's like, no, your mind's racing. Or something like that. And I laughed. It was a great time, because it's just something about me. But I also took it to heart. And I thought, I gotta look into this again, because it's been a while since I've really done my work in this way. And sure enough, I found some great answers. And it was in this doctrine. It was in this truth of like, oh yeah, I'm not my mind. Okay, other consequences I know. Constant analysis, right? Just constantly analyzing. Very little faith, actually. When your mind is racing, there's little faith, because most of the time you're always trying to predict what's going to be happening next. You're trying to prevent things. You're trying to jump to conclusions all the time, and you think you know things, and so you actually fail to act, because you're so paralyzed in analysis that you actually become quite stagnant. Very real, very real. So those are just a few, right? And to be honest, you could really go down a massive laundry list of losing purpose, of anxiety, depression, feeling so much shame, feeling so much just hopelessness. Why? Because little do you know, maybe you're even having this revelation right now when you're listening to this podcast. It's like, holy cow, I didn't even know my mind was the master. And if that's hitting you even right now, that, which hopefully it is, that I do need to step up. I need to tell my mind what to do, especially when it's screaming things at me. I need to be the one that tells it what to do. Even when I feel emotion, even when I feel this anxiety of rejection, that's just the old me. That's just my mind. That's my past coming up right now, and my mind telling me to protect that. And the challenge is now to lean into it. As I was driving to work the other day, and I was pondering on these, on this idea, I was still. I was actually focusing on stillness, and I was doing my best to just observe myself. And I had this idea that, imagine God, and he's talked to us about the fact that if he is all intelligence, if God has all intelligence, and we are a spirit that is completely DNA intertwined with him, and he has a way of connecting to us, right, through our spirit, but he requires stillness for that to occur. How much more could we receive if we could have the faith that instead of trying to figure everything out, my faith is actually to focus on stilling the mind and being in a place of calm to receive what he would say to me. And as I drove to work, I got there. I could feel this calm as I attempted to just be the watcher of my mind. And as you're listening to this, I want you to try it too. Try to be the watcher of your mind, the observer of your mind. And then this scripture came into my head that I've heard, and you've heard many times probably before. If you're not of my faith, there is a scripture that I love that says this: let virtue garnish thy thoughts unceasingly. And then it goes on, but this phrase has always meant a lot to me. And I know that when I use this scripture with men and most people interpret that scripture as, okay, I have to be virtuous. I'm the one that has to be super virtuous, and I have to have virtuous thoughts, and that means no unclean thoughts and all that kind of stuff. And for the first time in my life, I realized, wait a minute here. Why does it say the word let? It says, let virtue garnish thy thoughts unceasingly. And the next thing that came to my mind was the woman with an issue of blood. And on The Chosen, there's a beautiful scene where she's this outcast woman, never to be married. Everyone sees her as unclean, unfit. And she crawls in the group of people just to touch the hem of the Savior, because she knew that if she could just touch him, she would be healed. And she's healed. But he turns around, especially on The Chosen. I love how they depicted it. He turns around and he looks at her, says, who touched me, right? Who touched me? But before he says that, he says, virtue hath gone out of me. Virtue hath gone out of me. And we obviously know where it went. And so with virtue being beyond just clean per se, although it is clean, it is power. Virtue is grace. It is God's power. Anything he would give to us, energy, fortitude, anything he would give to us would be virtuous, and it will enable us. And she was healed. And then I thought, holy moly, the synonym for let is allow, not get, not achieve. It doesn't say achieve virtue in your thoughts unceasingly. It doesn't say that. It says let. In other words, the virtue of God is literally touching your hair. And the moment we still our mind enough to receive, to allow that virtue to touch us, it will. But that takes an extreme humility to disengage and disconnect from this ego self, from this mind that you have identified with, that you have thought was you. And I'm here to promise you that if you will allow this to occur in you, you will change. You will be liberated. And so many things that you thought needed to be fixed in your life will change. I have slept extremely well this week for the first time in I don't know how long. And I've woken up very energized. And I've woken up with a still mind. Business time. If you're struggling with this, come in. Stop waiting. People think, oh, it's, therapy. I need to really, really, really struggle to have to go to therapy. Really? Come on. Knock it off. Stop suffering. Stop waiting. This could be one session for some people. You've spent more on food to satiate your appetite. I'm not saying and I hope you see this. I am not saying I'm the healer. But I am saying we need coaches. We need help. I needed Blake to call me out. He wasn't face to face saying like, come on, Shade, knock it off. But that was inspired. I needed him to say that because it was time. The consequences of this are huge. And the biggest one I reserve for the ending, well, I'm not saying I'm done, but is ultimate disconnection. I can see it in my life of how disconnected I've been. I can see it in the lives of others where I know someone's talking to me and they have no idea. Maybe they do have an idea actually. And I'm not saying in therapy. When I'm in therapy, I'm focused. But when there's times where I'm at a practice of my sons or whatever, and someone's talking to me, it's hard sometimes to stay really focused. And please, if you're listening to this and I've talked to you, please don't think I just ignore you. But the fact is, it's real. There's a battle going on, and I'm not alone in this. There's a real battle of my mind racing, trying to still itself to hear you and connect to you. And honestly, I lose too often. And so do you. And that's a real loss. Because what matters most is what lasts the longest, and relationships last the longest. So to lose the opportunity to connect with someone else because I'm busy identifying with my mind is tragedy. That's tragedy. So here's what we're going to do. Here's some freebie for you. Here's a nugget. I want you to, in the next couple days, the faster the better, I want you to go on a walk where there are people around. Okay, so this can't just be a simple walk where, there's like absolute isolation. And this I did the other day in downtown Ogden on 25th Street, which is right by my office. And what I want you to do is I want you to spend a few minutes walking and just try to observe your mind. Okay, just try to observe and see how still you can become. Sometimes it helps to take in sound, to take in smells, to take in whatever it is that you taste or that your body is feeling, and really connect and see it. Just be there with it. Don't judge it. That's key. Don't judge it. Just be a witness of it. See it like a canvas on a wall or a painting, Just look at it. See it. Okay, so do that for a few minutes. And you should feel some kind of peace, actually. You should feel a calm. And then you'll lose it, which is how it is, but try to go back to it. And then what I want you to do is I want you to keep walking, and I want you to make eye contact with the people around you as you walk. And you keep walking, but as soon as you make eye contact, I want you to listen as well as humanly possible to what it is that you hear your mind say. And for the first time, maybe in your whole life, I want you to kind of just smile at it. Just see it. And I want you to disengage from it. That those thoughts, they don't have to be mine per se. They're what my brain has been programmed to do. It's the software that's downloaded in the mind. That when I see a person like that, I naturally judge this, I say this, I do this. And see it as programming. And then I double dog dare you to compassionately, charitably witness that person in a different way and choose to think something about them that is new and loving and kind. And if you have the guts, send me an email about it. Talk to me about it. I would love to be able to share some experiences here about it. It'll change you. I promise. It'll change you. And if it doesn't, maybe I shouldn't promise. If it doesn't, and it's that hard, because this is no joke. This is a daily. This is every day. Before I got on this podcast, I tried to do it myself. I was like, "Okay, get out of my mind. Just observe. Try to be present." And I've actually felt very present today while here. There's a lot of things I said today that I had no intention of saying. And that's how I know that there's intelligence just flowing to my mind to share. But if I was so busy about, okay, what's my outline? I got to follow this. That's okay. I built it, and I built this outline so that everybody will think that I'm competent and that I'm smart and that I have my crap together. And okay, so I got to make sure and execute that, and I got to make sure I don't use ums and don't do these things. And yeah, if I have to burp or something, I don't know how I'm going to edit that out. I'll have to remember to tell Austin to take that out of there. Do you hear me? That's you in whatever form that comes to you. You're not your mind. You are a beautiful soul who is whole. That's the enlightenment, is that you are okay. You're a human being with defects. But your mind says you're a defective human being that has to be protected. What are you going to choose to believe? Because now you're sabotaged. You can never not listen to this again. You can never not hear this again. And doesn't it feel good? I guarantee that many of you, even in this podcast right now, are feeling it. You're feeling a little of that disconnection from what you're thinking. If you're driving right now, just take a second, observe. Especially when this podcast ends, just silence. You don't have to be driving, obviously, but I love it when I'm driving. For some reason, it helps me. Just observe. And that's how you develop the off button, to just be present, to just be completely here in the now. And by the way, for you Christians, it's my opinion that that's the only place that the Holy Ghost lives. Where else could he live? He can't live in the future. He can't live in the past. And if he's the carrier of God's love, as long as my mind and as long as I'm identified with my mind that's constantly projecting in the future or constantly ruminating in the past, and I wonder why my relationship with God struggles and why I struggle to love him or feel love from him, I just told you an answer. I'm going to do my best to get this podcast published tomorrow. I don't know how many of you will listen to it, but for those that are members of my faith, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have a holiday this weekend, in some ways you could call it, but we have what's called a general conference where our prophet and apostles speak to us. And I want to, if you listen to this somehow tomorrow before conference on Saturday and Sunday, I hope and pray that you can push yourself immensely to be present, to shut your mind off, get your notebook and put it away and be and receive. And if you do jot down some things, it's jotting down what you hear and receive that's for you. And then listen and connect. All right. To end, I have an announcement. And this is, I hope you stay tuned. Please don't turn this off because everyone listening can help me. As you know, Motyv is, we are focusing on men's mental health and liberating men. We're also helping women, right? We are a men's mental health place, but we know that men, they're only as good as their wife is too, in most cases. So we also do help women to understand men and to work through whatever it is, betrayal especially, that has gone on. But in focusing on men, I've had an idea come to my mind that is centered around my father. I'm calling it the Jimmy Award. If you're listening, yes, I'm emotional. The Jimmy Award. My dad's name is Jim. And my dad was the example of manhood to me. He was tough. He was so strong. He walked 11 miles a day for a large part of my childhood to feed my family, to deliver mail to beautiful people of Washington Terrace. And then he got a job then he got a mail route where he could drive, but he worked his butt off to provide for us. And yeah, he wasn't the greatest empath as far as really attuning to me, but I did know for sure he loved me, and I knew that he also was a man of emotion. I would see him weep, I would see him cry. And then when I was 21, I had to say goodbye to him as he accomplished his mission and his motive in life by battling Lou Gehrig's disease for 3 years. And I felt inspired to honor men who are awesome examples of masculinity and manhood. And I want them to be seen. Men need encouragement. Everyone needs encouragement. I get to choose to focus on men. Men really do struggle though. Women, when you see each other, what's the first thing you usually do? Think about it. It's you usually give the woman a hug. If you see a girlfriend, you usually give her a hug or something. Hi. And one of the first things you do is you compliment something she has. Oh, I love your shoes. I love your sweater. I love your hair. Like you do it. And it's awesome. Guys, what do we do? Hey man, what's up? How you doing? I'm good. And then sometimes sarcasm. Like, dude, why? We might go the other. Why are you wearing those shoes, man? What are you doing? We give each other a hard time. And yes, there's good in that. But there's also some danger that when do we encourage? When do we say, hey, you know what? Thank you. When is the last time you, as a man, saw another one of your buddies and just said, hey, dude, you've been working that job for 20 years and providing for your family every day, and you get up at 6 o'clock. I just want to let you know that I think that's amazing. No offense to you, men, but I know that few of you have ever done that. So the announcement is, I'm wanting to do that, and I'm wanting to capture it on video, and I'm wanting men to be nominated. And so if you are someone who would like to nominate a man for the Jimmy Award, where I will personally try to find them and tell them to their face with a gift and with some beautiful words from you. And if you're even willing to do a podcast about them and telling the world about the goodness of that man, I'd love to do that too. Come into my office or in the studio and do an interview. So I need nominations. I need some nominations. So you can email me, Shayden at motyv.com, MOTYV, SHAYDEN and I'll reach you. You can also call or text our phone number, 435-315-2520. Email would probably be best though. But this is just someone that you know You've seen them, and maybe it's not your husband. Maybe it's just someone that's touched your life before. And again, this doesn't have to be a female that nominates. It's anyone can nominate. And we want to capture this. We want to start liberating men where they're at. Second announcement is that Motyv Men, our program, if I haven't said it before, we've lowered our prices to a price that I think is nearly free, $100 a month. And I believe in it a lot to do that. I believe in it a lot to have charged a lot more in the beginning, but it's God himself that said, no, let's lower this. Let's just try to give every access we can to men. So please, men, if this podcast has touched you in any way, know that this is part of what we do. And for $100 a month, you can get your butt in shape. You can have amazing therapists to give you feedback and to talk to every day. Crazy, every day on it. And it's all from the convenience of your phone. And have group therapy that's great and awesome. And it isn't always so extremely vulnerable that it scares you. We do a good job. And so we'd love to have you. So thank you for listening, everybody. Please keep sharing the podcast. Keep supporting us. Leave us feedback. Leave us reviews if you'd like. And follow us on our social media. That always helps us. And let us know what we can do to serve you. So go liberate your life. See ya.